boys, ghouls, and everything in between. My name is Shay, and today we are going to be talking about divination cards. Ooh. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about the difference between tarot decks, oracle decks, and how to choose which one best suits you and what you're trying to ask. The most important difference between tarot decks and oracle decks is that tarot decks have structure, meanwhile oracle decks don't. So, to start with tarot decks, there are basically 78 cards in most decks. There might be an extra one thrown in here or there, but as a general rule, there are 78 cards in every tarot deck. And those 78 cards are divided into two groups, the major arcana and the minor arcana. The minor arcana is then divided into four groups, which is actually what playing cards are based off of. So instead of having clubs, hearts, diamonds, and spades, you have wands or sometimes rods, depending on what kind of tarot cards you have. You have cups, you have swords or blades, and then you have pentacles, which can also be coins or discs, just kind of depending on what the tarot card wants to call them. But they're all basically the same thing, and they all represent each of the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. So the thing with tarot cards is, no matter what deck you have, most of the cards mean the exact same thing, maybe just with minor variations here and there. For example, I have my Tarot by Jonathan Dee here, and then my Tarot del Toro cards, which are just cards inspired by the works of Guillermo del Toro. So we have the Seven of Swords and Seven of Blades. They both mean victory over an opponent, like winning a competition, that kind of thing. The only difference is what they're trying to tell you about that victory. This one, the regular tarot card, means that you have to be more cunning and witty and basically outsmart your opponent. Meanwhile, this one, the Tarot del Toro one, means that you've already got this. You're gonna win regardless. Now, the major arcana, it tells a story, the journey of the Fool. The Fool card is an unnumbered card. It's kind of like the Joker in a pack of playing cards. But as you go throughout the major arcana, you meet different people, you learn different lessons, you experience the world. So while with the tarot you have a set structure, with oracle cards you don't. You don't even have a set number of how many cards will be in the deck. You can have anywhere from 50 to 200 cards. But while the tarot, as I said, follows a structure, oracle cards follow more of a theme. So, for instance, I have two different oracle cards here, a Fairy Forest oracle card and Halloween oracle cards. Now, the Halloween, each card is a different theme associated with Halloween, obviously. And so, for instance, we have the Death card, which means an eternal cycle begins here. You have the Graveyard, which represents unnecessary fear. And then the Underworld, which is where all things pause and begin again. Now, unlike with that, the fairy cards here, they incorporate different Celtic and Scandinavian woodland creatures or goddesses, that sort of thing. So, for example, we have Ragnarok, which represents destruction ending in the final moments. We have Frigga, which represents readiness, bounty, and plenty. And then we have the Solitary, which represents dedication, self-love, and focus. Now that you know the difference between the two decks, that might make it a bit easier on choosing which deck you want to answer a certain question. Because you can have multiple decks of either kinds of cards and ask it the same thing but get a different answer for every card, even if you have two of the exact same card. Now, choosing which decks fit you best kind of depends on how you're purchasing them. For instance, if you're purchasing them in person, what I do, at least, you can try this or maybe this doesn't work for you, but me personally, if I am at some kind of store where they have tarot cards, I will look at the different kinds of cards that they have, and if I see one that I like, I'll just kind of hold it for a few seconds. And if I have a feeling, like a really good feeling, then I'll maybe take a look at the pictures on the back, see what the different cards look like, and just kind of base it from there. Now, if you're buying them online, which most of mine are from online, I'll see a deck that I'm drawn to, and I'll click on it, and I'll look at some of the pictures of the cards. And if I feel drawn to them, or, and this is leading into my next point, if I look at one of the pictures and can see a meaning in it, that's the card that I choose. Which, as I said, that kind of leads into my next point. You can have two of the same cards, ask the exact same question, and still get two different answers. So, for instance, back to the tarot cards. In my regular tarot, I have the High Priestess cards. Now, like I said, these both mean the exact same thing. But when you look at the cards, they are obviously very different. So you kind of have to look at it and just kind of think of your question and see if you can see the meaning in it, which might sound really odd, but if you look at the card and a certain thing stands out to you, then that probably holds the answer. So, for instance, in this regular High Priestess card, you have the High Priestess, she's holding the Torah there, she's surrounded by pillars, you can kind of see a background. You can find meaning in this. Now, with the Tarot del Toro here, like I said, it's based off of the different movies of Guillermo del Toro. And so this High Priestess card, if you've ever seen Hellboy 2, is based off of Princess Nuala. And so while these both have the exact same meaning to them, since they are based off of two completely different people, with this one, I feel like the answer is somewhat based off of the character of. And so if you, like I said, if you've seen Hellboy 2 and you know who Nuala is, she's very calm, reserved, very intuitive and kind, and so that's something that stands out to me. And then when you further look at the picture, you look at the scroll, which she doesn't even look at, but yet you can kind of tell she knows what's there. And then you have a little dagger here in the corner, and just, if you look at the card and you see the little things and you can get a meaning from that, that is probably your card. And it doesn't just apply to tarot cards either, it applies to oracle cards. So, for example, let me just grab a couple of random ones that I had earlier. So, the Frigga card, now, it represents readiness, bounty, and plenty. But then when you look at it, you kind of see the dead autumn leaves and stuff like that. So, little things like that might hold meaning. And then in the underworld, you have pomegranate, skull, little greenery, and then the background, which kind of to me almost looks like the inside of a cave where a waterfall might be, or maybe a dark forest at night. It just kind of depends on who's looking at it and what meaning you're trying to find. And don't worry, if you see a meaning that you really want to see, probably not reaching, it's just kind of there. Well, that is all for today. Sorry if I was bad at explaining the meanings of the card. It's just kind of hard to notice the little things when you don't actually have a question that you're looking for in it. So, if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the little bell notification to be notified whenever I post videos like this. Leave a comment. Maybe I'll do some tarot readings. Maybe not. If you don't want to see that, I won't do it. Alright, well remember you are all beautiful and loved. Mwah. Bye now.